Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian O, not to control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the vault, episode 377, first meeting for trustees. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. Trust Christian in the vault. We just wanted to thank you for tuning in live. Once again, listening to replay. We got a workshop coming up here on March 18th through the 20th. Maybe a few seats left, but nevertheless, it's still one of those workshops. That's why we're doing this episode today. It's the first meeting for trustees. So many trustees have gotten in trustee training over the past 2 years, and we usually do four every year, every quarter. We had to, just because of, the whole situation that's been going on in the marketplace, we were considerate of trustees and families working together. So we decided to do maybe two every year. But feel free to reach out, Christian at TrustChristian.com. If you're looking to be at the workshop, once again, that's Christian at TrustChristian.com. What's interesting is to see that for the most part, the trustees are the ones that are going to be in the room. It's something that we've always demanded of ourselves to have trustees in the room more than just having people that are not in trust come in the room. So we're really excited and thankful that we got trustees actually coming in the room. Appreciate Wyoming for tuning in live, listening to replay. We got Wyoming tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Wyoming. Definitely wanted to do this episode about the first meeting for trustees. And this is going to be, one of those things that crosses many different, correlations of thought, not just focused on the workshop, but, if you want to get to the workshop, it's one of those things where, people say, oh, well, we're going to come to the next one. Well, you know, having that mentality is, that's not how trustees think. So it's interesting to see how the trustees, that have gone through the program or trustees that are actually just got enrolled in trustee training are actually going to be at the workshop. What's interesting is people actually showing up, people going enrolling in the trustee training are by default allowed to come to the workshop. You know, this is what the vault is here to provide, is to provide trustee training. And so in turn we do have workshops with the mentors. And so it's interesting to see, some people say, well, I thought I was going to get in training, but I don't know if I'm going to do the workshop. Well, the workshop does have a cost to it. But we never mentioned, and we didn't, and it's fine, But that's why we wanted to make sure we interviewed everybody that's going to be at the workshop. Literally, that's included in the trustee training. So we just wanted to talk about it today, the first meeting for trustees, because this is one of the things where people get in trust and they don't really know how to handle the first meeting. But one of the first meetings that you have is you meet with the first trustees. And so, in turn, meeting with senior trustees in the environment, particularly in our environment with senior trustees, people that have more experience, it's only going to add to your knowledge base. It's going to get rid of or shorten that learning curve. And so, does it take an investment in yourself? Does it take an investment in your education? Of course, it does. You know what happens when you sit down with your son or your daughters and your children that are going to be managing a estate, and you let them know in the first meeting, you got to go get educated. You can't just come in here and manage money. But this is what people have been doing in their personal estates and their family estates outside of trusteeship, is that they have not been able to go into a situation where it forces them to get educated first. So the first meeting demands that you know what your job title is. Your job title is to be an avid learner, a lifelong learner. It's to push you outside your comfort zone. It's to put you in a position where you're educating yourself and hoarding information for the family estate. You know, we always used to get around, we still do, get around you wealthy people. Wealthy people pay for information, ladies and gentlemen. Senior trustees pay for information, especially information that they don't have. And it doesn't matter the cost. Why? Because they understand the power of information. That's a part of your education. First meeting for trustees, when you're sitting in that meeting, you might tell a trustee, hey, You got to do some things that are going to be outside your comfort zone on a continuous basis. Because you're going to be managing the estate, you're going to be managing a trust, and you got to make some decisions that are going to be outside your comfort zone. So getting people familiar with those things is a great way to start. The first meeting, what are we going over? Are we going over the entire estate and the entire trust? What are the assets that the trust are holding? The businesses that the trust is managing? Think about how long someone could be going through documents on top of documents on top of documents of this company, going through and figuring out the management operating plan for this company, all those different things. That could take time. So how do you prepare for that first meeting for trustees? You got to give them the trustee manual. That's what we're going over at the workshop, the trustee manual. We're going over, oh man, I'm in trust. I'm in the private trust system. I'm in the private sector. But oh no, Trust Christian Vote, I don't know how to build credit on the trust because, it's not in the public. Correct. So that's why doing business without an SSN, only an EIN properly, that workshop was valuable. We had trustees talk to us about this for years now. Oh man, how do you build credit on the private trust? You think the banks are going to allow you to open up a private trust account? It's called private, not public. There's a difference. And build public credit on a private trust? First of all, the trust's supposed to be private. So why would you get credit attached to it? But these are some of the misnomers that you go over in the first meeting for trustees. Talking to the trustees, let them know, hey, we have to operate properly in the public. Our job in the public is to acquire assets. When people talk about acquiring a house, how am I, Just Christian Vote, how am I going to get a house? How am I going to get the car? I don't really got the money right now. I actually am trying to take out a loan. So how can I do that? I have the money to make the monthly car payments. Are you going to do that through the trust? Or are you going to go out and do business through an EIN, through a court properly? And then we bring forth the mentor that's doing it through a court properly. Period. Doing it through the courts. Oh, how do you get a house? How can you get an apartment, Trust Christian Vault, without a SSN? You got a corporation? Does the trust own a corporation? Because I didn't know that, an apartment could be, you could get an apartment with the corporation. Because the corporation will have business credit. Right? The corporation will have cash flow. Right? But we're not going to talk about what the problem is. But the problem is people have an employee mindset. So of course they don't know that. But for the trustees that are walking in trusteeship that understand assets under management, the trustees that understand assets under management are focused on, okay, we don't need to do business in the SSN. We're going to make sure that the EIN through the court is getting that apartment. The court is getting that vehicle. The court is getting that house. It makes a big difference too, because now it's business, not personal. But it's not easy to do that, is it, trustees? It's not easy to do that in the public, is it? No. Why would it be easy? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. If it was easy, people wouldn't tell you to go do the First Time Home Buyers Association with your personal, with your SSN. Oh man, Trust Christian Vault, how long is it going to take me to build business credit? The mentor sitting in the room telling you it's going to take less than 90 days to even get a Duns and Bradstreet number. Less than 90 days to get your Dun and Bradstreet number properly taken care of. You think it doesn't look good to an apartment complex? You think it doesn't look good to an auto dealer? You think it doesn't look good to a home seller? That you have your Duns and Bradstreet, the credit number that says this company is actually rated as a quality credit approved company? Credit worthy? It pays its debts on time? And what's more powerful, business credit or personal credit? Business credit. So the first meeting for trustees is focused on them understanding the difference between business and personal. It's them understanding that you don't need the social. That's for poor people. The EIN is for trustees, for entrepreneurs, for investors. And you learn how to navigate in that capacity. Because it's trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. That's what the first meeting says. You give the trustee, the new trustees, the induction trustees, an education. Sometimes you might send them to a school to learn business. But the most important thing is for them to learn the family values. What are the family values in the trust? What are the family values in the business? What are you passing along as far as a family value? Are you even passing any values along, or you think you're just going to pass money along? We talk about that in trustee training. Bottom line, we talk about that in trustee training. That's what we talk about. We talk about that in the first meeting for trustees. Used to ask the mentor all the time, give us a test for trusteeship. There is no test. We give you enough education and information to arm you to do the proper things. The resource that you need. In the foundation, a lot of trustees are blown away at the resources that we provide. It's the same thing in trusteeship. Even this workshop coming up, this is a resource that we're providing to trustees. This is a resource that we're providing to the listeners of the vault. It's a resource that we've had privately, that private relationship for years. This is a mentor that doesn't need anybody. Doesn't need to do anything in the public. They had international banks, jet companies, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But those are the big ones. Those are the glossy things. Those are the things everybody wants to hear. Everybody wants to hear, oh, you ride around on private jets and, oh, you had an international bank. Those are the big things that are exciting. First meeting for trustees, you got to come in and make sure that you have your head screwed on tight. Knowing that if something goes wrong, you don't panic. You don't make ill-advised decisions. And when you make mistakes, you fix them. When you make mistakes, you fix them. It's almost like when the trustees come into the first meeting, when your family is sitting down, you do a personality test. Oh, which personality test do I do? Trust Christian in the vault? What personality test do we do? There's quite a few out there. You can contact the vault, reach out to the vault. We do personality tests with our trustees. The mentors, you think the mentors didn't do personality tests with us? You think they don't listen to our language patterns? They know how to read people. We know how to read people. We tell people when you come into trustee training, you got to learn communication skills. You got to have communication skills. We got trustees enrolling in communications classes with the vault. Because that's what the trustee training is. Leadership, communications. That's what it is. But how many people are enrolling knowing that? Not too many. So we decided to share it. In the first meeting for the trustees, you definitely want to have a personality test assessing your children, assessing yourself, and sharing that and putting it all on the table and saying, hey, look, this is how my personality type is. Let me hear how your personality type is. Are you A type? Are you a B type? What type of personality type do you have? What type of personality type do your children have? Do you know? See, Trust Christian Vault has focused on that. It's developing the communication skills within the family so you can have great communication skills, passing along the wealth from one generation to the next. See, people want to gloss over the fact that wealth is not passed along. We don't say, well, just money. You hear these people that go in professions all the time say, oh, I wouldn't want my kid to go into that profession, but do you want your children to be a trustee? Well, you got to know their personality type, how to communicate best with them, because they may want to do something different, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've given our trustees personality assessments. We share with our trustees how to communicate with themselves better. Leadership techniques, how to improve your leadership skills. Putting your children, putting the successor trustees in leadership programs where they have to display leadership. That's what's going on with the trustees. Trustees are in the first meeting. We used to ask the mentor, can we get a test? The test is the personality assessment. That's the test. What's your personality like? What's your leadership skills like? What's your accountability set? We did a test market this past year for trustees. The first meeting, you could ask the trustees, are you willing to be accountable every week and do an accountability sheet? We had trustees do accountability sheets this past year, every week. That eliminated bad habits, that improved good habits. It got people doing things. When trustees sometimes would sit around and wait, you get rid of those old habits, those negative habits. People try to say, "Oh, what do they say? I have a tendency to procrastinate." Right. We got trustees to send the email as an adult, as a trustee of their family estate. And they had to be brutally honest with themselves. Not with Trust Christian involved, but brutally honest with themselves. One of the questions you can ask in your first meeting for the trustees, you can ask them, how do you deal with failure? Oh, Trust Christian involved, I'm not going to set no expectations for myself, because if I set expectations, then that means I'm going to be disappointed in my life. Because if you set an appointment to do something, that means you could be disappointed if you don't make it. So how do you handle that? How do you handle disappointment? How do you handle loss? How do you handle failure? Everybody wants to talk about, oh, I can handle success. I could cheer each other, smack each other on the butt. I can high five it when we all doing well. But how do you handle failure? How do you handle not achieving a goal? That's the question you ask the first trustees. The first meeting for the trustees, the successors, or whoever. You can even ask your team, your lawyers, your accountants. How do they handle failure? Because if they don't do something on time, it's a failure. How do you handle that? And being keen on the words that you're listening to when they answer that question. The first meeting for trustees, it says it all. How do you handle failure? Let's hear how you handle dealing with people. Let's hear you and your own description of why you feel you should be managing $1 million life insurance policy when someone passes. Plus, why do you think you should be managing that? What skills do you have to manage that? Communications is a skill. Leadership is a skill. Not everybody can get people to do things. The vault has displayed its leadership because we got people coming to workshops. They ain't never seen Trust Christian face through the YouTube, but guess what? They get to meet them face to face. They get to meet the mentors face to face, privately. That's leadership. Leadership is consistency. Leadership is integrity. That's what leadership is. Leadership is doing what you say you're going to do. When Trust Christian involved say, we going to show up, we show up. Holding people accountable. That's the leadership that the vault's provided to the trustees for years now. Oh no, this isn't a new thing. We didn't just pop up on the internet weeks ago, months ago. We've been on the internet for over 5 years. Consistency, integrity, with no complaints. Oh, they didn't complain, they just stole. Just remember that. They didn't complain, they stole. Oh, Trust Christian Vault didn't do it the way I wanted them to do it. So we gonna go deal with the competitors. They didn't complain on the internet that they got what they asked for, which was leadership and communications, trustee training. They stole. But this is competition. And the vault loves it. You got to ask your trustees, are they okay with competition? You think other wealthy families aren't trying to take wealth from your family? You think they're not trying to make sure that their children aren't working for successor generations? This is a family wealth game. And there's got to be winners and losers. You don't get participation badges over here in the private. You got to ask them that. Are you okay with a non-participation badge? Are you okay with winning and losing? Today, tomorrow? Are you okay with losing? How do you handle that? How long do you soak in the wallow? That's what you ask them in the first meeting for the trustees. That's what the mentor is going to be sharing at the workshop. Losing businesses, gaining businesses. Everybody over the internet wants to share with you how they win it, but no one wants to share how they lose it, how they lost, how you had to take some L's to get back up. And that's what it's all about. You think you're not going to make a bad decision as a trustee? You got to ask the successor trustees, how are you going to handle when you make a bad decision? That's an important question. And that's why the manual is so important. Because it asks those questions. It answers those questions, actually. People say, oh, how do you build business credit on a trust? You do business without an SSN, only in the EIN properly. That's how. Because it's business, it's not personal. That's how. And we just wanted to share that with the trustees. There's so much more we could talk about. But the first meeting for trustees, a lot of families have to develop that internally. You got to develop your core values. What are your core values? We had somebody the other day come through the vote. We asked them, well, what are your values? What are your top 3 values for your family? This is the first meeting for the trustees. What are their core values? What is your family's core values? What's your family's mission statement for generations to come? Sounds like a business plan. Sounds like an executive summary. Do they value privacy? Do they value a non-disclosure agreement? Are they going to breach the non-disclosure agreement? Are they okay with losing wealth because they breached the non-disclosure agreement? Are you willing to kick the trustees out because they breached the non-disclosure agreement? That could be your own child. That could be someone that you love. That could be someone you care about. Are you willing to kick them out? Are you willing to terminate their relationship with the trust? Are you willing to enforce consequences as a leader? That's what you're talking about in the first meeting for trustees. Are you willing to enforce those things? But when people come from non-accountable environments, they don't know that they got to enforce those things. When people come from non-accountable environments, they don't know that those things matter. But when you're looking to pass along wealth from one generation to the next, you got to have consequences for those actions when they breach the contract. Whether you tell them politely or tell them like Trust Christian tells them, you got to tell them the facts. You breached the contract. So it's time to chop off some heads. It's over for you. There's no coming back. It's a breach of trust. Those are the things you talk about in the first meeting for trustees. Those are the things that we're going over with the trustees in the first trustee training of this year. The first meeting for trustees, you're talking about not using a social security number, which is for poor people. That's what you're talking about. You let them know 98% of people in the United States and people walk around, they're using SSNs. They need some social security. They need welfare help. And even if you make more money than what they say you can make, you actually can't even collect it. That's something that people don't want to talk about in the public. Why? Because they want you to be poor. They want you to collect a little bit that you can. How can you live off a couple $100 or $1,000 a month? Well, what do you think you do? You downsize. This is what you tell the trustees in the first meeting. This is how you talk to them. You downsize. You go live in Kansas now. You go live in some middle or nowhere state. Or you can tell them, hey, look, this is about AUM and growing it. You got to focus on growing the assets. And your greatest asset is not the money, it's the education. So the first thing we need you to do is study. Is to go invest in getting uncomfortable, getting around these relationships of wealthy people and their children. Because that's what it takes. So we're going to see who wants to make those quantum leaps with the vault this year. The first meeting for trustees this year is going to be incredible. We're able to bring out a mentor that, has had some health challenges actually. It's not someone that we can really get a lot of people to on a regular basis because of just the health challenges. They're up in age, been a trustee for a long time, managed money for a long time for wealthy individuals for a long time, over 20 plus years. And we're just happy to have that relationship. Looking forward to introducing that resource to some new trustees going through the Trustee Training program. Look forward to connecting with people. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Peace and joy.